Good afternoon. This is the most exciting time, I think, of the year for me. It really is, Ignite. And why do you say it's the most exciting time of the year? Well, because for 3 years running, I've had the pleasure to be here and share with you some exciting news about Windows Server. 2 years ago, we were here at Ignite launching Windows Server 2016. And Windows Server 2016, as I'm sure you all know, was a very big release. It was the beginning of our modernization journey. And it was a release where we introduced new features such as shielded VMs, our Windows Server software-defined solutions, realizing Microsoft's hyper-converged offering in the market for the first time. It was also the beginning of our semi-annual channel release and our journey that started last year on stage at Ignite, where we introduced Windows Server version 1709, which is where we continue to innovate and bring containers and innovation in the application platform forward. And so I want to begin by saying a big thank you to you. Your interest and your adoption of Windows Server 2016 has been phenomenal. In fact, as Scott mentioned in his session earlier today, it is the fastest version of Windows Server ever adopted. And we have tens of millions of servers that have opted in to send us telemetry that we're learning from and that we're monitoring in terms of just the data that you've chosen to give us about those servers to understand how you're using the product and what we can do as we look forward. And there are even more instances deployed, right? Because I'm sure as you're sitting in there, some of you are saying, I don't opt in to give you my Windows Server data. I'd encourage you to do so because it does give us valuable information about what roles you're installed, what server hardware you're running on, that we can actually improve the reliability and performance of the platform. But the momentum is just tremendous. And customers large and small across industries and around the globe are taking advantage of Windows Server 2016 to run their business. And so what are they using it for? What are some of these maybe scenarios that you're familiar with? Security, modernization, increasing productivity. So here are three quick examples. Modus Link helps companies across many industries manage their supply chains and logistics. And they deal with different regulatory requirements. And so shielded VMs are helping them to meet these requirements as well as increase the security of their customers' data. Alaska Airlines is an example of an organization that was able to improve the shopping experience for their customers with microservices, Microsoft Azure, Service Fabric, and Windows Server containers. And so Windows Server containers, in their instance, provided the ability to develop .NET applications in isolated environments that could be quickly set up, used, torn down, and then really increased the certainty that with each deployment they were going to be in a clean state. As the Youth Villages, they're a US-based nonprofit that helps more than 20,000 emotionally troubled children and their families live successfully each year. And to them, reducing their infrastructure cost and complexity means more resources and more time for their professionals to spend with the young children in need. And that is what Storage Spaces Direct in Windows Server did for them. Lastly, Lindsay. Lindsay manufactures and markets water management equipment and services, including irrigation systems, pump stations, filtration, controls that are designed to increase and stabilize crop production while conserving water, energy, labor. And they also provide efficiency benefits in various industrial applications. With Capstone as their SI partner, the modernization effort using Docker and Azure allowed Lindsay the ability to scale quickly to meet their business growth and their customer demand. But what I find more interesting is that with Docker Enterprise, Lindsay was able to accelerate the cloud migration of their legacy applications. And I'm sure many of you in this organization have those type of applications that are core to your business, that you're maybe not doing active development on, but that you still need them to run. But you want to bring them into that modern world that we live in now. And that enabled them faster time to market, elastic scalability, high availability. But ultimately, to me, it's the impact of that. And the impact of that is that the global impact over time is that 700 billion gallons of water and 1.2 billion kilowatt hours of energy will be saved by 2022. So in today's global environment, that is a huge impact that we all can contribute to in terms of the technology that we're providing. Now, why has Windows Server 2016 been the fastest adopted version of Server to date? Well, I fundamentally believe that the source of the momentum is that it's fueled by one simple fact. And that fact is that the investments we made in the product are directly aligned to the key challenges that we see in the industry, in the market, and that you experience on a daily basis. First, the persistence of persistence and creativity of bad actors is pervasive. And so companies are required to invest in modernizing their infrastructure and in the tools to help them stay ahead of those bad actors. Second, enterprises want simple solutions that enable them to reduce cost and to do so without sacrificing performance and reliability. And as a result, hyper-converged infrastructure is one of the hottest trends we see in the server industry today. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. But customers understand the value of using mainstream servers with highly performant local flash to run their compute and storage needs at the same time on the same infrastructure. Enterprises are adopting digital transformation to engage their users, to offer competitive products, to empower their employees, and improve operations. And to drive this transformation, developers need a modern platform that helps them deliver innovation at the rate of changing business demands. And that is where the innovation in our application platform has come in. And finally, the move to the cloud is a journey. And at its core is a hybrid strategy that combines on-premises with the cloud environments working together in what enables businesses to leverage enables businesses to leverage their existing investments and embrace the future. And that is why hybrid is a core principle of our product design and engineering. Hybrid is built in. And while many of you are adopting and deploying new applications and services into the cloud, you want to integrate that with your on-premises investments to reduce cost, to drive better protection, to improve security. And our strategy within Microsoft is hybrid, right? Microsoft Azure Stack is an extension of Azure that brings the innovation of the cloud computing to build and deploy hybrid applications anywhere. With Azure Stack, you can build and deploy Azure Web Services, containers, serverless computing, microservices architectures to update and extend your legacy applications while using a consistent DevOps process in both cloud and on-premises deployments. And Windows Server, with its Windows Server software-defined, is the fastest route to the benefits of a software-defined data center. There's a lot to be gained in the efficiency and simplicity of using a software-defined technology. And Windows Server is the foundation of all of this. It's the foundation in terms of infrastructure for both our data centers and our cloud, and the applications that run across these environments. So what's the next step in the journey for Windows Server? Today, as Scott mentioned this morning, we're announcing that Windows Server 2019 will be generally available in October. Windows Server 2019 builds on all of the investments that we made in Windows Server 2016. So it's not this radical new operating system, although we've really learned from your feedback and embedded that into how we take forward. And in today's session, we're really going to give you a tour of the investments that we have made that really help you modernize your data center. Windows Server 2019 is a long-term servicing channel release. That means that it will be supported for 5 years of mainstream and 5 years of extended support. So it's more of that traditional server release that you are familiar with. And the cool thing is that it accrues value from all of the semi-annual channel releases that we've done to date, right? So if you've been focused on Windows Server 2016, you haven't taken a look at the improvements in version 1709, version 1803, now is your time to look at those because they've all been integrated into Windows Server 2019. So let's take a look at each of these areas in action. First, hybrid. So according to a study that Microsoft did, 91% of enterprises see themselves operating hybrid clouds for the foreseeable future. And it's interesting because 84% have a hybrid cloud strategy in place today. And that's actually up from 55% just a year ago. Right? So we're really seeing that this is core to how enterprises and our customers are thinking about moving their infrastructure forward. And our investments reflect that reality. We've deeply integrated Azure services into both Windows Server 2019 and into Windows Admin Center. Windows Admin Center, this is one of the products that when you get to work on them, it's a highlight, I would say, of maybe your career. And if I look at Windows Admin Center, it is the fastest growing Windows Server management product of all time. So since it's released in April, we now have over 1.7 million server instances that are under management using the Windows Admin Center. And again, that's only the instances that we know about where you have opted in to send us telemetry. The Windows Admin Center version 1809 is generally available today, and it includes support for all the new features in Windows Server 2019, such as storage migration services, and I know Jeff did a demo of that this morning in his mechanics and web seminar, and that got strong response. And storage migration services enables you to move your old file servers to Windows Server 2019 or to Azure. Last year at Ignite, I was on stage and we introduced the Azure File Sync. Azure File Sync allows you to use your on-premises Windows file servers as hot caches, and to do that with virtually unlimited storage in the cloud. And the response from you has been amazing. But there's been one overwhelming request, and that one request was for more. We had a steady stream of customers that have had 20, 40, 50 terabyte file shares who want to sync with Azure and use Azure's bottomless storage. So today, we are announcing that Azure File Sync will support 100 terabytes per share. That's pretty amazing. But that's not the only important announcement. And rather than steal Jeff's thunder, I know he's been tweeting about this for months, it seems, I'd like to invite Jeff on stage to show you. I don't think I can contain him 1 minute more, so take it away, Jeff.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Woo! How's everybody doing? Oh, come on, we can do much better than that. How's everyone doing? Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for Ignite for so long. There are so many secrets we finally get to tell, and this is one of them. Azure File Sync. So she just told you 100 terabytes. That was the most requested feature. Do you know what the number 2 requested feature was? Admin Center support, of course. Wouldn't it be great if you could now use your file servers on premises as a hot cache, but also have that easy integration and control through Admin Center? So let me show you. Here I have Windows Admin Center, and I'm logging into this server, and you can see I'm going to click on this brand new sneak peek for the first time ever, the Azure File Sync WAC Admin Center integration. So take a look here. Now the beauty of Admin Center and the beauty of File Sync is its simplicity. You literally install an agent on your file server, you configure it to Azure, and then there's really a couple settings you set. What are the shares you want to sync, and what's the tiering policy? So for example, if I've got a share, I want to say, I want this share to be 40% of it has to be free at all times so that I have lots of headroom for more growth. Okay, then we will automatically tier that up for you. Well, now here in Admin Center, you can see that this server is in fact registered with Azure. You can see the version of the agent. By the way, you'll be able to install the agent directly into the file server without having to go through anything. All of that, one click right here through Admin Center. All of the links to the Azure portal on the right-hand side for those links. If we want to dig in deeper, let's take a look, for example, at the sync groups. Now again, the other important thing you want to understand is what of my shares are being filed, are being synced. So guess what? We give you a list. Here I've got G, F, and H. You can see the names of the sync group. You can see how they're being synced up into Azure. Notice on the right-hand side, you've got the cloud tiering policies. So you can see that one of them, the F user data backup, has a 20% tiering policy. So it means always keep 20% of this file server free and make sure that we're just tiering it up to Azure so that you always maintain that other one. The second one is HR, and we want to be a little bit more conservative, so we're saying always keep 40% free. And of course, if you're wondering, well, what does this actually look like in Azure? Well, then no problem. Go on over to the sync group, click on that, and through an intelligent deep link, we take you to the exact right spot here in Azure. And lo and behold, I can see all of my sync groups. I can see my Azure file sync right here, this easy integration all happening through Admin Center. So again, what are you getting? You're getting more storage and you're getting easier management, all with Windows Server 2019 and this new Admin Center integration for Azure Files. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. I would say that that is hybrid in action. So with the explosive growth in the cloud, a question that I often get asked is, what is the future of the on-premises server market? In fact, I've even been asked, isn't server dead? This couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm sure all of you would support me in saying that. We're seeing tremendous growth, not only in the cloud, but also on premises. And this really reminds me of the early days of virtualization. Right? When virtualization was first introduced, the fear was that customers would consolidate and buy fewer servers. In fact, what customers did was they bought bigger servers and more of them, because the demand around technology and running infrastructure for your workloads simply increased. And today, I would say that's only even more the case as you think about digital transformation and how you're working on building applications that really are core to the evolution of your business. And so we see a similar trend today, and that is around hyperconverged. Right? Customers are modernizing their on-premises infrastructure to address the demands of better performance, scalability at lower cost. And that evolution is possible because of the hardware improvements we're seeing in the industry, but also the evolution of software to provide better manageability, better scalability, better reliability. And so we introduced hyperconverged through our Windows Server software-defined offerings in Windows Server 2016. Windows Server 2019 builds on those investments and, in particular, your feedback. Right? The first big piece of feedback we got was that the lack of a simple management of the hyperconverged infrastructure impeded your ability to deploy and operate the system. And so Windows Admin Center now provides an elegant management that encompasses Hyper-V, storage spaces direct, and software-defined networking. The lack of a two-node solution limited deployment to those heavier weight scenarios. And so on the edge, Microsoft is the first to introduce a fully self-contained two-node HCI solution, making it possible to deploy HCI at the edge where power and size are factors. And yet, you always want both, right? For those heavier weight scenarios, you pushed us around demanding increased scale and performance, and we've delivered on both of those. Lastly, we've embraced our partnership with Intel to innovate from the silicon through storage with a new technology called storage class memory. Storage class memory is a new type of memory that Microsoft has embraced in the cloud and is delivered back to you on premises through Windows Server. So let's take a little look at this evolution. All right, first, Flash was connected by a USB, and then the USB interface got too slow. So Flash was connected via SATA and SAS, and those interfaces got too slow as well. So next, PCI was used, and a whole new connection was created called NVMe, non-volatile memory. Each generation, we're moving the Flash closer and closer to the processor to reduce latency and increase performance. Now we have memory that plugs into a memory socket, a DIMM socket, sitting right next to the processor called storage class memory. And storage class memory can be configured to look like memory, treated as an insanely fast storage device, or segmented to do both depending upon the use case. For hyper-converged infrastructure, storage class memory can be used as an intelligent cache for storage spaces direct to reduce latency and drive up performance to new heights. And so with that, I would like to invite Lisa on stage. We've been working together on this innovation from silicon to software. Lisa is the Vice President and General Manager for Digital Transformation and Scale Solutions, Enterprise and Government within the Data Center Group at Intel. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Erin. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. It's always hard when you have a clicker in your hand.
I know,
feel
and I
like
got this thing on my waist.
Exactly.
But it's good.
Awesome. So, Lisa, before you joined Intel, you served as a CIO for some very large businesses and within government. And that provided you with firsthand experience on this transformation that we're experiencing in the industry. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about how you see the role of the CIO changing and what is or should be top of mind for them today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, how many CIOs we have in the room? Raise your hand. Wow, one? You guys need to it's a great time to be a CIO, right? Great time to be a CIO. First of all, CIOs really need, and it's just not CIOs, it's really the entire IT department. We need to think beyond being just service providers, keeping the networks running, keeping the applications running, and really become those strategic business partners. Because that's the only way that your business, your company, your agency is really going to survive in today's market. It's about speed, it's about agility, and it's about digital transformation, Erin, as you've talked about.
Yeah. So coming into Intel, how have you thought about this experience you've had and that perspective as you think about the solutions and products that you deliver to your customers?
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear, Erin, as our close partnership with Microsoft, we really talk about solutions now. You know, years ago, we would always separate maybe the software from the hardware. But with the pace of technology and the pace of change that we're experiencing, we want to build solutions that allow you to adopt the technology faster, simpler, so that you can plug and play into your data centers and get up and running on the latest technologies. And that is really the key around solutions. The work that we've been doing with Microsoft, the beauty is Windows Server 16, Windows Server 19 runs best on Intel, period. And the innovation that we bring in hardware is going to continue to help you accelerate your digital transformations.
So you talked about kind of modernizing and bringing things forward. We share stories, and we talk to a lot of the same customers. And you know, one of the interesting things is that, well, they don't always want to admit it to us.
Yeah.
They're running on some pretty old hardware and some pretty old operating systems. And so when you put that ex-CIO hat on, how do you think about that risk and really the impetus for why you want to move forward?
Yeah, it's a great question because we know upgrades are always hard. Our data center environments are complex. So it's never easy to just say, no problem. I'm just going to upgrade software and hardware. But the key is, first thing that comes to mind when I look at those running on Haswell and Broadwell technology, our new Xeon scalable family, our processors, we essentially improve platform security. We've increased performance by 40%, and we've given you back almost 60% in TCO. So that you can invest in R&D and you can invest in more innovation with your company. What took you 4 servers to do, you can now do with 1. So that hardware innovation coupled with the software innovation is really where you get the biggest bang for the buck to help you drive that innovation and acceleration in your data centers.
And that falls directly in line with what we just talked about around storage class memory, and in general, just the investment we're making that flows from silicon into software. I think it's also a perfect example of how investment in on-premises and hybrid cloud deployments is really fueling customers to be able to take action to modernize their data center, right? The cost for performance and ultimately value to the customer, is increasing. And so when we look at the hyper-converged solutions that we have, what are you most excited about?
I think what I'm most excited about is, at the end of the day, it comes back to compute, storage, and network. We make it so simple, right? Hyperconverged, storage, compute, and network. And we build solutions for hyperconverged. So our Intel Scalable family, our new Xeon platform, provides all of these technologies into the platform. So it starts with Xeon Scalable. The really exciting thing is what I think we're going to show next is what you referred to as storage class memory. And that is our Intel Optane data center persistent memory, an innovative, brand new class of memory. I always like to simplify it and think the bigger the data sets that I can move next to my compute power, the bigger the problems I can solve, right? And I think that's what's really exciting about our new storage class memory that will become available at the beginning of next year.
Fabulous. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me on stage and for our partnership. One of the things that's, is a pleasure in my job and one of the highlights of my job is getting to partner across the ecosystem to really bring this new innovation, into your hands. But that's enough of us talking about it. Shall we see this in action?
Let's take a look at it.
Awesome. I'd like to welcome Cosmos to the stage to show off the impressive performance we're seeing.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Aaron. Organizations around the world are looking to hyperconverged infrastructure for their next wave of data center modernization. And there's no better way to go from Hyper-V to hyperconverged infrastructure than Windows Server 2019, which includes Hyper-V, storage spaces direct, and software-defined networking, everything you need in one familiar product and license. But more than the familiar management tools or the affordable price, what customers tell us they really love most is the performance. 2 years ago, on this stage, we showed a demo of a single storage spaces direct cluster providing Hyper-V virtual machines with nearly 6.7 million IOPS, or storage operations per second. But that was with Windows Server 2016, and hardware that's now 2 years old. So today, it's time to see if we can beat that record. The demo you're about to see is the result of a deep engineering collaboration between Microsoft and our friends at Intel. And it features the very latest in storage innovation, Intel Optane DC persistent memory. Now, you can be forgiven if you're not familiar with Optane. It's pretty new stuff. An Optane module like this one goes in a DDR4 memory slot, but the storage that it provides is persistent, meaning you can power it down, power it back up again, and everything that you wrote is still there. And unlike conventional RAM, Optane comes in sizes up to 512 gigabytes. And all of this is fully supported natively in Windows Server 2019, including with storage spaces direct. Now, the performance you can get from one of these modules is pretty impressive. But what's more fun is an entire rack of them. It's actually a reference configuration that Microsoft and Intel have been working on together. 12 server nodes, each running Windows Server 2019, and packed with a future Intel Xeon Scalable processor, persistent memory, and NVMe. Let's take a look. We'll start in Windows Admin Center, which has a brand new and purpose-built dashboard, especially for hyper-converged infrastructure. We can take a look around at this summary of our cluster. So we can see we have our 12 servers, our 72 drives, over 300 Hyper-V virtual machines. Now, these are turned off right now, but we'll get back to that in just a minute. And just to round out the tour, we have our 14 storage volumes, which are providing nearly 100 terabytes of usable capacity. And as you may have seen from the front photo, this environment's not even fully packed. Actually, we have extra PCI slots and drive bays available for expansion. Here are those 12 servers. We can see them from Intel. And if we take a look at the drives, Windows Admin Center lets us group them by type. So we can see that we have 24 persistent memory drives, which we will use in Storage Spaces Direct for caching. Note that these show as 768 gigabytes each. Now, how is that possible? what you'll see if you click in is we're actually interleaving multiple physical Optane modules at the memory controller level. Like I said, this is some pretty new stuff. Just to round out the tour, we can also see we have our NVMe drives for capacity. And if you think of flash as small, think again, because these NVMe SSDs are 8 terabytes each. Back to the dashboard, I'd like to introduce you to 2 charts. The first shows IOPS across the entire cluster. So this is the number of storage operations per second. And the second shows you latency as measured at the file system in Windows. So this is not device latency, but this is how long each of those IOs is taking. OK, what do you guys think? Should we start to really see what this thing can do?
Bring it, Cosmos!
Before we do that, one more thing. We're going to need one more digit. I don't want to give anything away, but all right. Now, as we saw, we have these 300 Hyper-V virtual machines, and they're all turned off. So when they come on, what they're going to do is each virtual machine is going to run an open source Microsoft tool called Disk Speed that generates synthetic storage I/O. So what do you say we start turning these VMs on? Let's start small. Let's just turn on the virtual machines on the first node. Now, as we'll see in Windows Admin Center, we can see the number of IOPS, and we can time-lapse forward here. And that number is going to shoot up through the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, to over 1 million IOPS from just the virtual machines on node 1. This system isn't even breaking a sweat. So let's turn on some more VMs. Let's turn on the virtual machines on node 2. Now, you'll start to see a pattern here. These virtual machines are going to request another 1 million IOPS, and they're going to get it, 2 million IOPS, from this single cluster. All right, I don't want to make you guys count these all the way up. What do you say we turn on the remainder of the virtual machines? Now, we'll bring them on a few at a time, and what you'll see is a certain pattern start to emerge here. No matter how many storage operations these virtual machines request from this hyper-converged cluster, they are able to get it through 3, 4, 5 million to our previous record of 6 million IOPS, and continuing onward and upward, 7, 8, 9. Here's a big milestone, 10 million, 11 million, 12 million, 13 million 4K random read IOPS. Folks, that is our new record, and we believe the industry record for any hyper-converged platform. The pace of innovation here is really exciting. In just 2 years, we can do twice as many IOPS. And by the way, last time, it took us 16 servers. This time, we only needed 12. And it's just the beginning. There is so much more coming for both Intel Optane DC persistent memory and in Windows Server and Storage Spaces Direct. So you saw it here first. Please join us down at the expo to get your Count IOPS in Millions sticker. And have a fantastic week at Ignite. Thank you. Back to you,
Awesome.
Aaron.
Thanks, Cosmo. So as I said, one of the best things about my job is to be able to work with partners across the industry to deliver amazing solutions for our customers. And so, Lisa, thank you once again, not only for the partnership, but also for being here to share with you your perspective on the industry and where we're going. We'll give a round. So speaking of partnership and how software and hardware deliver value to customers, I'd like to thank our 13 partners that we have today participating in the Windows Server Software Defined program. Windows Server Software Defined solutions are the easiest, most reliable performance solutions for you to implement hyperconverged in your environment. The Windows Server Software Defined program delivers validated solutions from our hardware partners, and so you can get the fastest time to implementing HCI in your environment. I'd encourage you to attend the HCI showcase that we have in the Windows Server and System Center area of the Expo Hall. We have several of these solutions on hand, and you'll be able to see them in action and talk to those behind the engineering of these solutions. In particular, among our partners, I'd like to give a special thank you to Fujitsu, who is launching their Windows Admin Center integration here at Ignite. If you're a Fujitsu customer, this extension helps bridge your hardware and software together in one console and helps you with troubleshooting and management across the entire system. Another partner that I'd like to highlight is DataOn. DataOn earlier this year launched their Windows Admin Center in an extension, but it's been significantly updated in their version 2 and is available now. So we've talked about hybrid, we've talked about hyperconverged. Let's turn our attention to security. Microsoft's approach to security is based on 3 pillars: protect, detect, and respond. In Windows Server 2019, we continue the journey we started in Windows Server 2016 to help you protect your identities, the operating system itself, and the virtualization environment. As an example, Shielded VMs helps you protect secrets inside VMs from insider threats and malware. And we heard your feedback in Windows Server 2016. And in 2019, we're adding support for Linux VMs. So Linux shielded VMs, if you're running Linux on your Hyper-V platform, you'll now be able to take advantage of those same security benefits. On the detect and protection front, we've brought native integration with Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, or ATP. Some of you may be familiar with ATP. It was first delivered through Windows 10. And like a number of other platform security features, Windows Server now benefits from the same level of comprehensive, built-in, and ongoing security protection. ATP gives customers access to deep kernel and memory sensors that enable ITE to detect and respond to threats. And so to showcase another security feature that we have in Windows Server 2019, I'd like to invite to the stage Dean Wells.
Thank you very much. So I don't know about any of you, but would you like to follow Cosmos' demo and then talk about security, which is only really functional when you don't see it do anything? The hell do you follow that? All right, well, let's kick straight into it. So what I want to talk to you about now is protecting virtualized workloads. We've been harping on this for quite some time, ever since Server 2016, and we are still the only brand on premises in the market that can offer these technologies. Specifically, we spend a whole heck of a lot of time putting firewalls in and VPN solutions on the perimeter, but nobody focuses on the attack vectors that are entirely unique to the moment you virtualize a workload. What happens when you virtualize a file server? Somebody gets a picture of your parents. What about what happens when you virtualize a SharePoint server? Somebody gets another picture of your parents. What about when you virtualize a domain controller? Somebody gets your parents' logon passwords and yours and the admins and then access to anybody else's folders because that's the keys to the kingdom. Look at the way that this thing shows data at this point in time. If we go down that graph there, you can see that in the physical model, admins have sort of appropriate access. The moment I virtualize it, suddenly disk admins, storage admins, like Cosmos, have access to things they shouldn't have access to. He has every picture of my parents and some that I don't have myself. It's a sad state of affairs. We need to be able to stop this. And we can do it with technologies that already exist in Windows Server. So I'm going to bring up some adversaries first. This one is me. You can tell, apart from the stubble, of course. I should have added that on, but I didn't have the time. So I'm endowed with permission to fully administer the entire fabric. I am, however, easily swayed by a box of Thin Mints. Can anybody tell me what those Thin Mints are, since I'm from England? What's the brand? After Eights. I heard the English accent there, After Eight. Yep, that's the one. If you buy those for me, I will give you whatever you like. Ryan is the storage admin. This guy is a nasty piece of work. If you know my colleague Ryan, he is not a good person to work with. He's angry the whole time, never smiles. He's going to be one of the attackers. So here's the first attack. Ryan wants a raise because the odds of Erin signing off on one for him for actual work is slim to non-existent. So he's going to go ahead and give himself a raise. How's he going to do it? This is where we get a little bit technical now. So pay attention. This is actually technical. I'm not even setting this up to be sarcastic. We've got a malicious file server admin, and he's going to steal passwords from a virtualized Active Directory domain controller. You can see what's going on here. The virtualized host stores all of its data on a file server, not necessarily leveraging Cosmos' stuff. It's actually using iSCSI in this particular case. And they're going to copy the entire iSCSI volume. They're going to take out of that the VHDs. Then they're going to locate inside there the Active Directory database. Who knows what's that called? Quick techie moment. What's the Active Directory database called? See, we do have CIOs in the audience. You were wrong. There's way more here than I thought. Okay, that was a joke. That fell flat. I thought that was quite amusing. I'm not sure what happened there, but all right. So finally, we go through this module that we downloaded from the internet called DS Internals and check out what's about to happen. This is free. This is shareware available on the internet. So all I had to do was be a storage admin or a fabric admin, get hold of a domain controller's VHDX. Then I use this tool to extract the system key, which encrypts a password encryption key, which then went and extracted all the password hashes. Who is this person now in that Active Directory domain? Anybody they choose to be. How scary is that? If it was a physical domain controller, that's way harder. What are you going to do? Walk into the data center and just carry out a big hefty unit? It doesn't work like that. It's just a VHDX in this model. So what do we suggest? How about we encrypt the file system? Okay, we can do that. If we reset this environment then and we go ahead and we encrypt the file system where the virtual disks reside, this will certainly give us some level of protection. Quick show of hands for anyone involved with this. Who encrypts the disks on which their virtual machines run? Quick show of hands. That was like 3. I'm hoping that you're not all virtualization admins and there's just nobody doing it. This would be the norm, in my opinion. This is the way that you should be running it. So Ryan realizes that he needs help. He's going to come to me now. I'm Dean, the fabric admin. He's going to abuse, along with me, our relevant permissions on those 2 sets of storage and the Hyper-V fabric. And we're going to try and instigate an attack, not against running virtual machines, but we're going to do it against VMs that have yet to be born. What on earth does that mean? Well, we're going to try and instigate an attack against template disks. Who knows what a template disk is? It's the disk from which a VM is born. It's been sysprepped, it's got Windows pre-installed on it, and the idea is that we're going to go and attack that. So the malicious admin creates a script on an existing template disk simply by mounting it. Now, how did they gain access to the storage if it's now encrypted? Well, the storage admin doesn't see the encryption because the encryption's happening on the Hyper-V host. The fabric admin lives, if you will, inside the encryption bubble. I logged on to the Hyper-V host and the encryption is just transparent. It's gone. I copied it off. So now we go in here. Pre-configured startup script is renamed and replaced with a keylogger. Here we go. Why am I renaming it? Well, I have to make the script name comply with the policy. Now, back on the fabric host and sometime later, we've got a regular fabric admin, a legitimate one. He doesn't even know he's doing anything malicious. He's going to go and deploy a brand new VM from that template disk. That template disk contains a script that automatically installs a keylogger the moment that server starts up. What else do you think that script does? Restores the legitimate script afterwards. This is all incredibly easy to do on technology that we've got available to us today. So here you can see that the legitimate admin is now going ahead and creating a new VM built around that. They start it up, and what happens? That VM, whether it be running SharePoint, file services, it doesn't really matter, or a domain controller, is instantaneously compromised. So now let's show you how we mitigate that with technologies that are common to both Server 2016 and Server 2019 shielded VMs, and then I'll close by showing you additional things we added to what we call a guarded fabric, one that runs shielded VMs, in Server 2019. So here we are then, same attack. They try and locate that same template disk VHDX. The malicious admin then tries to add the malware installation script, and the first thing that they encounter is this. Signed template disks. This is a real thing. This is not fictitious technology. This is a real thing. They're read-only, but it's meant to be a safety gate, not a security gate. It's meant to be there to go, whoa, 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 whoa. You shouldn't be editing a signed template disk, because if you change its content, the signature might not match up anymore. So it's meant to be a warning. This particular attacker was fairly well informed, and they knew how to remove those flags from the partition in the file system. And they did so. They instigate exactly the same attack again. So they go to the startup folder where the group policy that's on that machine points to the startup script. They rename it. They've added the new stuff in there. Now we're back to the same point where that template disk should compromise the machine the moment it's used to deploy. Sometime forward, the legitimate admin tries to deploy a new VM, a shielded VM, from that signed template disk that has been compromised. What's happening now is the Hyper-V host is recomputing the signature and comparing it to a known good list of whitelisted template disks. And as soon as it's finished computing that signature, it comes up with an error saying that the provisioning was aborted because this disk has been tampered with, either for legitimate but inadvertent reasons or for deliberate malicious reasons, and we bailed out. Those are 2 features of about 20 that we have in shielded VMs whose sole purpose in life is to make you see nothing. Unlike Cosmos' demo, where it's to make you see everything, this is about making you see nothing. I don't want you seeing the security at all. So, protecting your virtualization fabric, what? Well, we have an assume breach philosophy. If we assume that admins are malicious from day one, and really it's not a question of are they, it's a question of how much. 1 million? Add 3 zeros like Cosmos does? Okay, you're starting to get my interest. Sorry, Aaron, but 1 billion? I'm gone. I'm in some island somewhere better than Florida. Why? Why would we do this? Well, because Fabric attack vectors are real. They introduce ways of getting to this data that are entirely different to the way you would get to it if the machine was deployed on bare metal. That doesn't mean we don't want to virtualize. Of course we want to virtualize, but we want our cake and eat it. So we need protections like this. This really is just table stakes at this point, in my opinion, yet still, we're the only one that does it properly. How? We deploy a trustworthy guarded fabric on Windows Server 2019. Now, most of what you saw there was common to both 2016 and 2019. Here's what we did in 2019 around this. We added support for Linux shielded VMs. That same attack I just showed you about deployment, that wouldn't work against a Linux shielded VM anymore. Highly available host guardian service. This is the component that ensures only healthy hosts are allowed to get keys to work with shielded VMs. There's a very strong form of attestation. I would love to talk more about that, and I really impress upon you. Come to the 2 security sessions. Just look up my name. There are 2 security sessions where we'll dig into all of the attacks, and I'll take you through about 9, I think it is, different attacks, including crash dump attacks, where they try and crash dump the host and steal the memory out of it to gather BitLocker keys. It's a really deep dive session, but it's got enough good data in it for you to understand, wow, this stuff is real. The attack vectors are absolutely for real. We have offline startup for people that want to power on a shielded VM on a boat, for example, or boats that go under the water, if you can infer what I'm talking about there. We've got one called single host binding, where you want a VM, and it's only ever allowed to run on one machine. A privileged access workstation, for example, that runs as a shielded VM, and it is bound to the TPM in that gentleman's phone. We have a simpler attestation mode. If you want to dip your toe in the water, we've got a simple mode for you to do that now. And obviously, we've got improved deployment tools, and we even gave you back some different versions of Virtual Machine Connection and PowerShell Direct. So, with that said, I encourage you one more time. My name is Dean Wells. Look it up. Go find the 2 other sessions. Come and attend them. I'll give you more detail, and hopefully, you'll find it as appealing as Cosmos' demo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. We invest in these secure innovations so that you can run your apps on a secure, virtualized platform. And we launched containers in Windows Server 2016. And since then, we've come a long way. If you are a DevOps team that's on the semi-annual channel, which offers a faster release cycle and faster innovation cycle, you must have noticed the continuous improvement in container images. Container networking improvements, the Windows subsystem for Linux, the list is significant. And Windows Server 2019 cumulatively brings these semi-annual channel investment features and some more. Let me highlight a couple of those. Most notably, we added support for Linux containers, and we've greatly enhanced our base container functionality for orchestration with Service Fabric and Kubernetes. Of course, we continually drive down the size and increase performance for our server core and nano server images. And much of this is in support of modernizing your traditional applications. I definitely encourage you to look at the Modernized Traditional Application Program to modernize older applications with Docker and Windows containers. And to share with you how we've taken your feedback to provide you with the tools necessary to embrace application modernization and containers, I'd like to welcome Taylor Brown to the stage.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Taylor.
So earlier, Aaron highlighted 2 of the customers that are leveraging Windows containers as part of their application modernization strategy. Now, the best part of my job, other than upstaging Dean, of course, is that I get to work with customers across the wide range of different profiles, from the executives to the developers to the IT pros. And for each one of them, containers play a little bit of a different role. For executives, containers often represent a way to increase efficiencies, to reduce the amount of time it takes to deploy applications as part of their digital transformations. Now, for developers, containers are a really nice way to just deploy the application the way they built it. It works the same way on their machine as it does in production. They don't get calls. It's much, much easier for them. And for operations teams, it represents a really nice way to reduce drift, increase patch management, and provide us a new way to deploy our applications. At their core, containers are simply a new abstraction. Much like virtual machines, they provide us a way to manage the workloads in a different way. Virtual machines abstracted our operating system from the physical environment, allowing us to do things like live migration and move applications to the cloud. Containers are simply a new abstraction between the application and the operating system. And much like virtual machines, it's the tooling that's ultimately going to unlock the full potential of containers. Now today, a lot of that tooling has been focused around the developers. We hear things like Docker and Kubernetes and all of these things that feel a little bit like they're only for the devs. And every time I come to Ignite, I hear from all of the different operations teams going, hey, what do we think about this? How do we use containers? How do we integrate with this environment? Which is why I'm really excited to be able to announce today, available right now in Windows Admin Center, we've added our first preview of our container tooling. Now this tooling, and we'll get into it in just a second with a demo, is designed specifically around operation scenarios. It's our first preview, and we're really looking forward to more and more feedback so we can hone in on the scenarios that make you effective and efficient with containers. This isn't meant to challenge orchestrators or replace them. It's a complement to them. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and switch into an environment and take a look at this in action. Now you can see I've got an environment up here, and this is running in Azure. And it's just a couple different environments, one in each data center, so I've got 2 regions. And I can notice that both of them have some really high CPU running on them right now. Now this would probably generate an alert. And in fact, you can see my little Slack windows ping there. I probably have an alert for something going wrong in this environment. Now let's go ahead and dig into it and see what we have going on here. So we're in Windows Admin Center, and we can definitely see that we've got a server that's got high CPU. Nothing new here. And we could go look into the processes and try to figure out what it is. But I happen to know that this server's running some containers on it. So instead, I'm going to dive into our new Containers tab. So this is a brand new extension. It's available today in preview. If you download Windows Admin Center, you can add this in. Not only does this support Server 2019, but it actually supports all the way back to Server 2016. And we can now dig into these containers that are running. Now, this one on the top, Fractal, looks suspicious. We can see that it's actually using 71% of the CPU on my server. I can click into it. I can bring up additional details, nice graphs, all of the things that we would expect to see in Windows Admin Center. And I can kill that container if I want to. Now, if this container was being orchestrated by something like Kubernetes or Docker Swarm or Service Fabric or any one of the orchestrators, that would detect that as a failed container, and it would restart it on another server back to the way it was before. So we haven't interrupted any of the application lifecycle. We've simply mitigated a problem. Now, let's say I actually wanted to dig into that container in more detail, maybe to figure out why it was having a problem. One of the top requests that we've had from admins is, give me the event logs out of a container, please. Well, here you go. These are the event logs live from a running container displayed right in Windows Admin Center. So I've clicked into process list and container running. I can get the application log. I can see any of the events I want. I can scroll through them. I can filter them. I can do anything I need to do within that container's lifecycle, including dive into the console to get additional information out of it. So if I wanted to look at the system or I wanted to look at services, here we go. And of course, I can look at images and volumes and all sorts of other things. Now, this is all available today, so we encourage you to go ahead and give it a try. If you'd like to talk to us more about what you want to see in Windows Admin Center, what kind of container tooling would be helpful for you, please come by the booth or any one of our sessions later this week. With that,
awesome. Thank you, Taylor. So Taylor focused on a lot of the new enhancements that we're adding to support modern applications. We also worked hard in Windows Server 2019 to support more traditional applications. One of those applications is SQL Server 2019. SQL Server announced earlier this week that their preview is now available. And while there are a number of amazing new capabilities in this preview, I'd like to highlight 2 areas that we've worked on deeply across the engineering teams. First, Building on the work that Cosmos demoed early and our partnership with Intel, SQL Server 2019 is optimized for storage class memory, delivering you higher performance and lower latency. And on the security front, Windows Server 2019 is the first and only database to support Windows Server 2019 secure enclaves. This means that SQL Server's computations are encrypted. One of the main requests that we've received in the last few years is to add support for first-party mission-critical applications on Server Core. And so, introducing Exchange Server 2019. Exchange Server 2019 is built to meet the security, performance, and technology demands of the largest enterprises. And if you haven't seen the news, it now supports Windows Server 2019 Server Core. And in fact, that is now the recommended way to deploy it. In addition, we've worked closely with Exchange to enhance the scalability so that you will be very successful running Exchange servers on systems with up to 48 processor cores and 356 gigabytes of RAM. We know many of our Windows Server customers are using System Center to manage their environments. And so Windows System Center 2019 will release in the first half of 2019 and light up new capabilities in Windows Server 2019, providing best-in-class operations for monitoring, troubleshooting, and management at data center scale. It will also support heterogeneous environments and provide new ways to manage your environments that spread across your data center and Azure. Now, many of you may say, hey, Aaron, throughout the session, throughout the week, I'm seeing many new features that are being managed via Windows Admin Center. Well, Windows Admin Center is meant to complement the management capabilities of other tools such as System Center. While System Center is great for larger environments and data center management, Windows Admin Center really focuses on that simple hybrid approach to managing your Windows servers. So now that we've done a tour of the Windows Server 2019, I'd like to invite Vijay, Director of Windows Server Product Marketing, to the stage, and he'll share with you a little bit of how to maximize your Windows Server investments.
Thank you, Erin. I'm honored to be here. Thank you. How do you follow all of these great speakers? Well, I get to talk about money, saving money. Well, you saw all of the great capabilities that we're bringing to you with Windows Server 2019. You also heard Erin and Lisa talk about all of the hardware and software innovations that we're bringing to you with hyperconverged infrastructure. But I'm here to tell you today on why you should upgrade to Windows Server 2019 now, or why you should plan your upgrades right away. We have in Windows Server 2008 and SQL Server 2008 some of the most popular versions of software. I know many of you have hundreds, if not thousands, of Windows Server 2008s out there. Well, end of support for SQL Server 2008 is coming in July 2019, and Windows Server 2008 end of support is coming in January 2020. There's not much time left, so you should start planning now for your upgrades. And we have options for you. If you're running your Windows Server 2008 VMs or SQL Server VMs in your environment, we want you to bring them over to Azure and run it here. What we're going to do is we're actually giving you free extended security updates for up to 3 years after end of support. You just have to bring them over to Azure and run them so that you can plan to upgrade your Windows servers to Windows Server 2019. We also understand some of you want to stay on premises for various reasons. You may be running physical hosts, or you may want some workloads to be running on premises. For those, we urge you to start upgrading right away to Windows Server 2019. Or if you need more time, you can buy security updates for up to 3 years. And you're not alone in this. Today, we are unveiling an upgrade center. It's easy to get to. It's a web portal where we want to give you all of the information and the guidance that you need to upgrade to the latest versions of Windows Server. Here, we want to engage with you and fulfill your needs that you have to upgrade your servers. And we also want to connect you with various partners so that they can guide you through this upgrade motion. Finally, I want to tell you, we want Azure to be the best place to run your Windows Server workloads. We've also made it the most cost-effective place to run your Windows Server workloads. Right? As you can see here, we have Azure Reserved Instances, Azure Hybrid Benefit, which gives you ability to reuse your licenses on Azure. Right? If you run the same Windows Server VMs in AWS, for example, you'll be paying up to 3 times more. What more? If you're running Windows Server 2008 and SQL Server 2008 VMs in your own environment, if you bring it to Azure with Azure Reserved Instances, Azure Hybrid Benefit, and free extended security updates that we just announced, you're going to save even more on Azure. If you run the same thing on AWS, you can be spending up to 5 times more. So with that, I do want to close with saying that you have 2 paths. You either bring your Windows Server VMs to Azure and run them and plan your upgrades to Windows Server 2019, or you start planning upgrade on premises right away. With that, I'm going to let Erin close it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. All right. So, what's the question I get asked the most after are servers dead? Is the on-premises market dead? It's what's next for Windows Server? And so I want to assure you, looking forward, there are multiple paths we have to continue this innovation. First, I'd encourage you all, if you are not, to sign up to be an insider. We integrated our early adoption program, our early technical previews into the Windows Insider program, and we make versions of Windows Server as well as Windows Admin Center, which we release on pretty much a monthly cadence at this point in time, available through the insider builds. So please sign up. We will, we strive to on about every 2-week cadence, get you new builds of both Windows Admin Center as well as Windows Server proper. All of the innovation that we're doing in those insider builds, they first accrue towards our semi-annual channel releases. And those semi-annual channel releases are targeted twice per year. And they focus on application platform and container innovation, right? Those are the areas where you move more quickly, right? In the whole container deployment pattern, you can actually refresh, right, the OS image on a more regular basis. It's much harder to do that on top of physical hardware. And it takes us longer as well to get the hardware innovation through the operating system and into your hands. And then on the more traditional cadence, we'll bring that the innovation that's focused on that infrastructure layer to you via a Windows Server long-term servicing channel release. And so this is the moving forward, the rhythm that we're on. Fast preview of new technology, new innovation in the insiders. It shows up first in the semi-annual channel release focused on application platform and containers. And then the infrastructure and hardware innovation makes its way into the long-term servicing channel. So please sign up for Windows Insiders today. That is the best way for you to get access to this new innovation as it moves forward, and to provide us with feedback so that you can make sure that we're building the right product for you. And that cadence also enables us to deliver that Windows Server innovation to power the data center, the cloud, and the applications that run across those environments as part of the hybrid strategy that we have at Microsoft. So in closing, I would like to invite you to join us at the Windows Server 2019 launch party. It is happening Wednesday evening. There is a bit of a trick to this, and the trick is that there are limited spots, and so please stop by the expo hall and talk to one of our experts at the Windows Server and System Center area, and they will connect you with what you need to do in order to secure your spot at the party. It proves to be a fun event, so I'd encourage you to all go to the expo hall, meet with our experts, learn something about Windows Server 2019, and then join us at the party on Wednesday evening. And with that, I would say I've only been able to scratch the surface of all the amazing features that we have in Windows Server 2019. This is the full session list. I'd highly encourage you to join Jeff tomorrow morning, Jeff Woolsey, in his session at 10:45 a.m., which I believe is right across from this room in the auditorium, for a deep dive in 2019. He has all additional content. There are no repeat of demos. It's all new information, so it isn't sitting through the content that you've seen today, but he will also guide you through the sessions the rest of the week. And so with that, I have 10 minutes for questions, if anybody has questions. I know I'm in between you and the opening networking reception, but we do have mics, and everybody seems to be leaving. So I think at this point in time, I will say have fun, have a drink, we'll see you.